Hello, Lit Comp 2. This is the last day of my sub leave, so I should be back on Monday, April 11th. Today is Friday, April 8th, and you guys have some more workshop time on your slideshow and your presentation over part 2. So you guys picked a topic, you picked your groups, you've been drafting a slideshow, you finished reading part 2. I want to revisit the rubric with you and then talk a little bit about the goal behind the presentation. So this is 65 points. You guys are graded in your groups. 10 points is just what you choose to focus on. This is your claim. So I'll look at your claim in the slideshow. Here's my claim right here. So I'll look at it and see, is it got complexity? Is it interesting? Is it analytical? And it also coincides to what your top 5 list is. So if you guys remember, mine was based on the exposition points. For 20 points, I'm looking at your actual evidence. Is it well chosen? Did you connect clearly to the overall focus and claim? And are they explained well? So don't just give me the evidence, talk it out, or offer some annotations on the slide that help explain what the evidence means and why it's important. For another 10 points, you have to do what we call an extension and support activity. This should expand on the learning. It should offer new ahas or memorable or meaningful insight to your audience. Like, it's supposed to get the class involved. So I'm going to talk about some ideas for that in just a second. Your craft. You need to have a presentation that has really nice visual and designs. It needs to be memorable and effective and help with the overall aesthetic and like visual impact of what you're sharing with your classmates. Make sure the organization is really well done. This is also how you present, who's talking, the transitions between you guys moving from slide to slide, and make sure it's easy and engaging to follow the slideshow. If you're using the structure and the tools I talked about yesterday, you should be okay. And then for 5 points, you need to have great mechanics. Make sure your citation for your quotes and evidence is in the slideshow as well. And then I'm going to kind of click through my slideshow again today to give you guys some final supports. So, right here, today, this is an analysis paper, but it's a presentation format. So when you think about that, think about the traits of good analysis, especially when we were doing The Great Gatsby. So a good analysis paper will have a nice intro. You don't just rush into the top 5 list. You need to kind of ease into some conversation and some discussion, kind of like a lead. You'll go into your claim and then move into your top 5 list. And you do need to have a conclusion. And it should be more than just, okay, thank you for your time. You want to offer them something new or thoughtful to take away at the very end of the presentation. Make sure you have a strong thesis and claim. So what I mean by that is, this is thesis and claim, they're very similar, but I want you to have this kind of overall, like, what are you teaching the class? I say claim because you're not through the whole book yet. So you can't tell me his overall arguments yet because you haven't seen part 3. But you are teaching the class and arguing something to the class as being important or meaningful. Make sure you also have a good balance of evidence and commentary. What I mean by that is you're not writing full out paragraphs, so your commentary is a fancy way of how you explain or talk out the evidence that you share with the class. Make sure you have that. You could put some notes on your slides. You could also use note cards, but you want to make sure you know what you plan to say in relationship to that actual evidence. And then this is not a paper, so your craft, your style, is going to manifest through the visuals, text, and graphics that you choose to use. So let's look at that real quickly here in the slideshow that I created. So my craft is with word choice, right? I tried to play with an important or interesting terminology to make the presentation interesting from the get-go. I aesthetically and visually, I just wanted to play up eyes because that's kind of a big concept in part 1. I kind of played with my own grammar here with repetition. This is just me kind of doing some intro discussion to kind of help ease in the audience to my discussion overall. I have a lot of slides because I feel like clicking and moving through slides allows me to talk a little bit more, but not overwhelm the audience with a whole bunch of text. There's my claim. This is a transition slide. And then I tried to make sure my evidence was a little bit different in terms of how it looked. And then if you notice, I talk out. Like especially right here, I knew I wanted to talk about this, so I added the commentary at the bottom. I have different fonts, so I knew to kind of pause and talk out and provide some commentary. Down here, this is all kind of commentary, and then this is my evidence up at the top, and then my pictures are evidence as well. This doesn't have any commentary on the screen, but I made sure to talk it out with the class. And then finally, good analysis papers have some type of conclusion, so you could share a new stat, share a new quote, share something interesting. You could do something from the intro. So maybe you say, hey, audience, if you were to name part 1 versus part 2, what names would you give it? So just different things to kind of close it out in an interesting way. So, good analysis papers, good presentation, they all kind of follow the same traits. Now you got to get interactive. So this is part of this portion of the rubric down here, which is you have to do an extension and support activity that is basically interesting for the class. So how do you do that? I did this little thing. So what I did is I made a drawing and I had you guys draw Winston's internal versus external world. I did this because I think most people enjoy drawing or they enjoy graphics, and then I also did it because it reinforced my belief that Winston has 2 different kind of worlds he lives in. So think about that and the activities you plan to do. So here's some ideas. You could do a survey, like ask kids a survey question, or ask them several questions. So for instance, you could do predictions like, do you think Winston and Julia will betray each other? You could survey that, because remember earlier in part 2, Winston says the only betrayal is against those you love, I think was part of the quote. So I would imagine Winston and Julia are probably in some trouble in part 3. Or you could do a survey like, what is the worst technology out there? What technology blocks privacy? You could offer an extended reading, like you might find an article or a little summary of something from 1984 you want to talk out a little bit. I know there are a lot of songs and a lot of movies and video clips that have been inspired or are connected to 1984, so you could always play that and ask the class to talk about it and ask for a couple people to share. You could do a game. I don't know. We didn't have time to do it here, but I've had people do the game where, like, basically you tell 5 kids that they're thought police, and you do it with people's heads down so nobody can know, and then you go around and you kind of have conversations about silly things like, how was your spring break? And then what happens is the thought police basically have to identify who's not following Big Brother. I realize that probably didn't make a lot of sense as I explained it verbally, but you could Google like 1984 games and stuff like that. Just be careful when you Google you don't find spoilers. You could share new knowledge. You could share a mentor text. You could do something with drawing or colors. You could have people identify keywords, or maybe you write a list of the top 5 quotes from part 2 and you rank them and see if people ranked them the same way you did. It really is kind of up to you what you want to do with this. It definitely should be connected to your thesis and claim, or the literary elements, or the, focal point that you have from the part 2 in general that's in your slideshow. So, I hope that gave you information. Review the rubric. Definitely consider how to get your paper, your presentation, to mimic good analysis paper techniques. And then once again, here's some strategies and ideas. So good luck, and I am very excited to see what you guys have produced on Monday, April 11th. The last thing I'll leave you with is the due dates. So on Monday, April 11th, that will be our final workshop day, and your presentations really should be complete or close to complete on Monday. You guys will get feedback from me. I'll look at what you produced and offer any other advice or support you need. And then ultimately you will be presenting on Friday, April 15th. We won't have any more class time on the project because we have SAT and a whole bunch of crazy stuff going on that week in general. And then your actual reading notes, I need those this Monday. So make sure you have them done and ready to go. So good luck. I'm very excited to see what your slideshow is. Reference this, definitely reference this as well. And if you have questions, let me know.